This is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and today I'm going to solve a problem I have here at the house using spreadsheets and my 3D printers. This winter here in Tennessee, we had record cold temperatures, and the electric bill's been it's 30 days behind, maybe a little bit more. And my wife came to me and was curious, particularly in February, why our electric bill was so high. And she asked me if I had changed something with my 3D printers, or I was running them constantly, leaving them on. Was I turning them off when I wasn't using them? Now, my reason I believe the bill was higher was because of the record cold, and the way they were billing was a little bit behind. So what I've done is gone ahead and run some experiments so I can figure out how much it really costs me to run my 3D printers, both in electricity and material. And then I made a couple spreadsheets that hopefully they'll help you as well. To start my experiments, I hooked all my printers up to these smart plugs that monitor electricity. Also let me turn off my printers remotely. I'm going to point out I would not buy this brand. Originally, when I bought these, they monitored electricity, and the newest versions no longer monitor electricity. If you're interested in something to monitor your usage, I found this alternative on Amazon, and I'll post it in the video description. In my case, I use these plugs, and at the time, they did monitor electricity. And then I also went ahead and printed some benchies on 3 of my printers. And that way I could record the time it took, as well as the electricity usage. I'm going to point out these benchies don't look too good, mainly because I'm using old filament, and I'll be honest, I'm running another experiment with some old filament as well. And so let's go ahead and just take a look at the app. So I have the app I used to monitor electrical usage, and click on it right down here at the bottom. It can go ahead and give me the electrical usage. So that's really handy. And also I can look and see what my daily averages are, what my printing averages are, and all that good stuff. So I'm starting out right now. I have a couple days where I just left the printer on. And if you look real carefully, the CR6 uses about 0.07 kilowatt hours of electricity per day when it's just turned on. But let's take a look now at my spreadsheets I put together. My local power company is Paris Board of Public Utilities, and as you can see by their website, the kilowatt hour rate is about 11 cents per hour. So I'm starting with that number, and I've gone ahead and put that into my spreadsheet. And then I went ahead and printed my benchies. And I used all 3 of my printers and ran the benchie. And it took, and I did all this in seconds, on average, about 6,187 seconds to print. That's about an hour and 40 minutes or so. So it took about an hour and 40 minutes to print the benchies on all 3 printers. I decided to use the 3 printers, that way I could compare costs a little bit better. So what I noticed was, in order to print, it cost me about 1 cent per hour. So it's only costing, again, about a penny per hour to print average, maybe a little over a penny, on all 3 of my printers. To run all 3 printers, it cost me about 3.7 cents. So I mean, again, that's pretty cheap. Now my overall cost for the benchie, running it all out, doing all the costs, on average was about 25 cents to print a benchie, 26 cents, somewhere in there. So it cost me a total of 77 cents total to run this experiment. Now my next step was taking my numbers here, my averages, and then figuring out what it costs me to run my printers a month. For my next calculations, I wanted to figure out what my daily and monthly costs were. Use some estimates here, and let me explain all my numbers. Kilowatt cost per hour was, again, the rate from my local utility company. It's averaged approximately 11 cents per kilowatt hour. My printing using the benchies and the averages from the 3 benchies on the 3 different printers, I used about 0.2 kilowatts an hour. Went down here, and my daily cost of having my printers on is less than 1 cent. It's 0.0079 cents per day just to have one of my printers turned on. And my cost per hour, on average, is about 1.2 cents. Now, if I take those numbers and run them all out, and I have 5 printers, just to have them on, it's costing me about 4 cents a day. If I'm printing 24 hours a day, which I'm not, but just to use that high estimate, it costs with the 5 printers about $1.50 a day. Over 30 days, just if I leave the printers on 24 hours a day, don't run anything, it costs me $1.19 a month. So if I was running all 5 printers 100% of the time over 30 days, it would cost me about $45.15 a month. And I could sort of assume, I think, if I was running a print farm and I had 5 printers, in and around between $45 to $50 a month would probably be a good estimate. Realistically, I'm probably printing about 10% of the time, maybe 2 hours a day, because I'm doing this in my spare time. It's my hobby. Let's say that 10%. So realistically, with all 5 printers, it's costing me $4.51 a month. It's really not that much to run the printer. It's actually pretty cheap. The last thing I looked at is just costs in general, and this is material costs. To do my model with the Benchy, here's my average print time, here's the average material used, and it cost to print a Benchy about 2.2 cents. We're based on $24.99 roll of filament. It costs 30.6 cents in material. So lastly, it costs 32.7 cents to print the Benchy, one Benchy for this experiment. Last thing I want to point out is, in my mind, the electrical costs are pretty much nil on these printers. The material costs is where you can have some big expenses depending on how much you're paying per roll of filament. But again, these are all my cost calculations. If you want to use these spreadsheets, I'll put a link in the video description. One last thing to point out with these spreadsheets, I'm not including the costs of the 3D printers in any of my costs. I'm considering that sunk costs. There's no good way for me to do depreciation and the cost of the printers, because I've done lots of upgrades and spent time on them. If you want to do calculations based on the electrical cost and the material cost, these spreadsheets will help you out. And if you have any questions about them, please post them in the video comments below. I want to thank you again for joining me today. If you like what I'm doing, please feel free to subscribe or at least like my videos and share. Tell you how much I appreciate all your time and you sticking with me. If you have any questions or comments, post them below. If you have any recommendations or thoughts on what I'm doing, I'd love to hear from you. I try to respond to every comment that's posted. Again, thanks. Have a good day.